All right, today we are diving into one of the most intense and frankly heartbreaking stories of leadership in the entire Bible, Numbers chapter 20. This is a story all about pressure, public failure, and how just one single moment of anger can change everything, even for the greatest of leaders.
And this really is the central question, isn't it? After decades of faithful service, leading a nation through impossible situations, can one flash of anger, one mistake, completely define your entire legacy? It's a heavy question, and it's exactly what we're going to unpack.
So, where does this story begin? Well, it kicks off in just about the worst place imaginable. The people of Israel are out in the desert of Zin, and the situation is already incredibly tense. It all starts with a huge loss, which just sets this really grim tone for what's about to happen.
Okay, so you've got this double whammy hitting them all at once. First, Miriam, who is Moses and Aaron's sister and a major leader in her own right, she dies. So everyone is grieving. And then at that exact same moment, the water runs out. It's a literal perfect storm of grief, fear, and a life-or-death crisis.
And the people just snap. You can hear the raw desperation in this quote. They turn on Moses and Aaron, and it's not just complaining anymore. No, this is pure, bitter accusation. They're basically screaming, "You just brought us out here to kill us." You can just imagine the pressure on Moses and Aaron is about to boil over. So all of this tension builds to the absolute turning point of the story. Moses and Aaron go to God looking for a solution to this crisis, and they get a very, very specific instruction. But this is where it all goes terribly wrong. The command from God is actually incredibly simple but powerful. Take your rod, the symbol of your authority, but then speak to the rock. The miracle was supposed to happen through faith, through words, not through brute force. It was meant to be this calm, divine act.
Yeah, that is not what happens. Moses gets the people together, but his own anger and frustration just spills out everywhere. Listen to the contempt in his voice. "Hear now, ye rebels." He's not acting as a channel for God's miracle anymore. He's an angry man yelling at his people. And he even makes it personal, saying, "Must we fetch you water?" It's all about him now.
And this right here lays out the fatal mistake perfectly. The command was to speak, an act of faith. The action was to strike the rock twice, an act of anger. He disobeyed the most crucial part of the instruction. He chose force over faith. But here's the crazy part. Despite the blatant disobedience, the miracle still happens. Water gushes out of the rock, everyone gets a drink, the animals are saved, the physical problem is solved. You'd think, great, all's well that ends well, right? But the spiritual damage was already done. The consequences for that moment of rebellion aren't something that happened years later. Oh no, they are immediate, they are severe, and they completely change the future for Israel's two most important leaders. God's judgment is just, swift, and stunning. You see, the real sin wasn't just hitting the rock. It was the reason behind it. It was a failure of belief, a failure to represent God's holiness and patience in front of everyone. And for that, the punishment is immense. Moses and Aaron are now banned from entering the Promised Land. Their entire life's work will have to be finished by someone else.
And this isn't some far-off punishment either. The fallout starts happening right then and there. Because they're denied entry into the Promised Land, the route they were on is now a dead end. They have to find a whole new way forward, and right out of the gate, they hit a wall.
So Moses tries diplomacy. He sends a message to the king of Edom, who are their distant relatives, asking for safe passage. He promises they'll be on their best behavior, stick to the main road, not touch a thing, but Edom's reply is a hard no. And they don't just say no, they back it up by marching out their army. So Israel is forced to turn around and take the long, hard way. And now, the story shifts from this big national consequence to something deeply personal and tragic. God's decree starts to become a reality, and it begins with Aaron. So they arrive at Mount Hor, right on the border of Edom. And it's here that God gives Moses the heartbreaking news. He says, Aaron's journey is over. He will not enter the land. And the reason is spelled out crystal clear. Because you rebelled against my word at the water of Meribah. It all comes back to that rock. What happens next is just one of the most solemn scenes you can imagine. Moses has to lead his brother, Aaron, and his nephew, Eleazar, up the side of this mountain, in full view of everybody. And there he has to perform this gut-wrenching task. He takes the sacred robes of the high priest off of his brother and puts them on his brother's son. The leadership is officially passed on. And then, the text just gives us this simple, stark fact. After passing on his legacy,
Aaron dies. Right there, on top of the mountain. He saw the next generation take his place, and then his life's work came to an end, just shy of the finish line.
30. That's how many days the entire nation of Israel mourned for Aaron. When they realized he was truly gone, the man who had been their spiritual guide from the very beginning, the loss was just immense. It was the end of an era, and it all traced back to that one terrible day at the Rock.
So we end right back where we started, with this really difficult question. You have a leader who gave his entire life to his people, who put up with unimaginable hardship. But for one public failure of faith under extreme pressure, he paid the ultimate price. Was that just? Or is this a tragic lesson that for those who carry the burden of leadership, the standard is always going to be impossibly high? The story kind of leaves that for us to wrestle with.